Accessing library computer data.
Hi there, Starfleet engineers. My name's Captain John Child of the Starship Enterprise, the model that we're going to make. This episode's entitled Tools and Workstation. Ta-da! Yes, I'm going to be focusing on everything you need to be able to actually make this project happen. Now, when it comes down to it, you only really need one tool, and that's a scalpel to be able to make the model. When it comes to tools, they're there to make your life easier. In fact, you don't really need tools at all. You can actually rip the parts off the sprues and put it all together, but it's not going to be clean or efficient. And that's what tools are there for. And I'm going to go through all the tools that I use to actually model make. Now, these are the tools that I've collected over years. Now, don't think that you need to go out and buy every single tool that you see or hear about, well, especially what other model makers use. It's all down to you and your personal preference. But I'm going to suggest certain tools which will be perfect for a project like this. Now, to give you an example, you've got two pieces of plastic, you put them together and you're holding them. 1, 2, 3. Takes forever sometimes. Would it not be easy if you just have a clamp? That's an example of using tools. You don't actually need it, but it does help and makes your life much, much easier. And then we're going to also talk about workstation. Now, this is my workstation. Yes, I know it looks like an Ikea desk because it is. Not all of us are very lucky to have something what they call a man cave. Now, usually this would be a garage or it would be a room somewhere in someone's house. Now, in this day and age, it's very hard to get a house, let alone a big house, to accommodate a whole room for a man cave. But if you're lucky enough to have your own room, then get yourself a desk in some corner of it and then use that as your workstation. As you can see, this is my workstation. Yes, I know it's an Ikea desk, as I previously stated, but it is perfect and it's modular, so you can actually build it to do everything you need it to do. So if I want to get myself some clamps or drill bits, I know exactly what drawer to go to and not have a messy desk. Okay, there are 2, maybe 3 types of model makers out there, and you may be one of those. So the messy model maker. This is the model maker that has paint everywhere. There is organised chaos, you can call it. You've got sandpaper on the floor, you've got a couple of rubbish bins, you've got a light just hanging off the ceiling somewhere. Then you've got the second model maker where everything is set perfectly. You've got some amazing modular systems out there for model makers which are laser cut out of wood. I think there's a Polish company who do that, and I'll actually put that link down below. Superb, but it still makes your desk look like a model maker's workstation. And then there's me, the other model maker, where I like things all tidy and organised, but at the same time I want it still looking like a desk and I want to be able to draw on it. I still want to be able to use my computer. It's basically a one-size-fits-all workstation. So are you ready to check out my workstation? Let's go. Welcome to the Starfleet workstation from Ikea. Now I'm going to start with the captain's chair because you need comfort when you're making models, especially when you're spending so many hours hunched over pieces of plastic, sniffing all that awful glue. Oh, actually it's not too bad, but don't sniff it, kids. Now let's just see. Yes, I've added a Starfleet Delta emblem. Yes, I know if you put your head back and you leave it there, you'll end up with an imprint on the back of your head. Well, especially when you're bald. But that's kind of cool. I'm not too bothered about that. So a comfortable chair is much needed when you're making models. Now the desk itself, if I just move the chair out of the way. Desk itself, it's a piece of wood from Ikea on top of 2 drawer sets over here and over here. And this is great when it comes to storage, and I'll go for those drawers later. Now, I've got my computer here, but, well, this is the monitor and the keyboard and the mouse. So where's the computer? Well, the computer's underneath the desk because it's not one of those glow-in-the-dark computers which looks absolutely beautiful. It's just a black box, and I just wanted to hide it, and therefore gives me loads of workspace on this desk. So that's underneath the desk, and the only things on top of this desk which relate to the computer is my lovely monitor which I got last year, and I've got a wireless keyboard and a mouse. Now the reason why I went wireless keyboard is because I like to declutter, and especially when you're moving stuff around when you've got a model on your desk, it's a bit of a hassle. So I went for a cordless keyboard. Yes, I did come with a cordless mouse, but I found that it wasn't as responsive as a wired mouse, so I kept my old Dell mouse. So the next thing is the speakers. So the speakers here, there's one here, there's one here, and there's a subwoofer just underneath the desk, as you can see, because you want to listen to some tunes or also YouTube footage or anything as you're making your model, or you need some reference. So those two are there. Yes, I know we're talking about the 23rd, 24th century, and I've got a retro phone. Yes, I'm a little bit old school like that, or you could say it's hipster. Either way, I thought it was a lovely gift from a friend, and it actually works. Anyway, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the phone, but it's nice to have a traditional phone on your desk. Now, I wonder how many kids who are watching this video now know how to operate this phone. Yes, that's a good question to ask them later and test them out if you've still got one of those in the attic or a cellar somewhere. Oh, yes, I know, even though I like Star Trek The Next Generation, someone got me placemats which are based in the realm of the original series with Scotty. So I've kept that one on my desk because this desk is absolutely lovely and I don't want to ruin it. And now, getting on the subject of ruining a desk, how come I'm a model maker and it's absolutely clean, there's no cut marks or paint? Because I have installed a little slot underneath the desk here. There we go. Now if I grab whatever's under here, it's a placemat. Yes, it's my secret placemat. Now I just pop that there, and there you go. Within an instant, I've got myself a model maker's desk where I'm not going to damage it whatsoever, and I've got this lovely placemat, and it just slots right underneath the desk. I built this from a piece of MDF and a couple of bits of wood. Anyone can do this, and I highly recommend it, especially for storage, because these types of mats, then they don't really store well if you store them like this. They tend to bow and bend, and it takes forever to flatten them out again. So I do recommend store them flat, and if you can, make yourself a little shelf somewhere. The next thing I have is one of my mood lamps. Well, this is one lamp. This is a nice lamp. As if I zoom out, it just makes a it just makes a very nice place to work. Yes, I know it's not really great in regards to painting, but that's why I have a secondary lamp, which is this. Yep, most of you people will recognize this lamp here. Most model makers will have something like this, and if I just switch it on, there we go. So that's attached to the corner of my desk there, and I can use it and then put it away whenever I need or don't want it. So this is really good. And also this doubles up as a magnifying glass light. So really, really useful. I think this only cost me around about £20 on sale. So yeah, I think you can even get it cheaper. So I recommend getting yourself one of those. I could just swing that out the way, and there you go, a very nice clean desk to work on. Now the next thing I've got around my desk is, and some of you probably have noticed this, yes, an autograph picture from Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis from the Starship Enterprise. I love this. Someone gave this to me as a gift for my birthday a couple of years ago, and I had it framed by a professional framer, which was one of my friends, and he actually put my initials on here, which was kind of cool. So these two lovelies will be watching us make the Enterprise D over the forthcoming episodes, and I can look to them for inspiration whenever I'm doing something, and I'm getting a bit more slapdash, and I'll look at them and I'll say, no, I've got to make this Enterprise D awesome. Actually, can you see it properly? Let me just, there you go. Absolutely beautiful, brilliant. So the next thing I'm going to show you is underneath the desk. Yes, all the big stuff is under here, if you can actually see that. So I've got myself the subwoofer there. There's the computer with a backup drive on top of that, and then I've got my printer and scanner there. And then another thing, a little tip for model makers, when it comes to power points, because you don't want to keep on going underneath the desk constantly trying to plug in, unplug your power source for your drill or anything else you're using. I've popped an extension lead here and I stuck it onto the side of this drawer set here, and it's superb. So I can just plug in my drill or my iPhone adapter and it reaches very conveniently to the top of the desk. Highly recommend this method of popping in your own power source. Yes, you've probably seen the switch here. This I actually rigged up to power up the speakers over here, because usually with speakers they tend to be powered from the base unit, and I didn't want to keep on going underneath the desk constantly switching this thing on and off. So I've got a nice little button here so I can switch it on and off. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is one of the drawer sets I've got here. So this is my model making drawer set. You will ask me what's in the other drawer set, and I'll look over and that's my stationery drawer. But I'm not going to go into that, it's not about drawing. This tutorial is all about model making. So let's go back to the model making drawer set. Yes, this is how organised I am. And I'll open up the first drawer. Now the first drawer, as you can see, these are the most common tools that I'll use. A little tip for you, with these drawers, unscrew the screw on one of these brackets here, which means you can take this drawer further out and utilise all the space in these long drawers, because IKEA tend to actually pop in a screw here and your drawer can sometimes only go out this far and you waste all that lovely room at the back. So I took those screws out, and now look at that, beautiful, all laid out, one glance. I've spoken about Adam Savage before on Tested. He's a professional model maker, and the way he describes his workshop is the fact that he doesn't have to move anything out of the way to be able to get to that tool. I can literally, if I want my safety glasses, grab. If I want a certain pair of pliers, grab. I don't have to jumble around trying to find something. There's a clamps I was on about, but I'll go into details later about that. So the second drawer. Okay, this is the second drawer. I keep all my glues in here. Again, this is unscrewed on the side, so I can move this further out. It's a bit stiff. And you've got all the different types of glues, your epoxies, we've got more heavy duty tools here. I've got my nice little burner here, the refill, sanding blocks. So the tools are getting a bit more hardcore, bigger. I don't use these tools all the time, but they're here if I need them, and also all the glues. So that's drawer number 2. Now I sound like a game show host, don't I? What's behind drawer number 3? Drawer number 3 is, yes, I know what you're thinking. You see the box of tissues, but that's for model making, trust me. Okay, so we've got the box of tissues here, which are very useful when you're model making. When glue goes everywhere, you can actually grab yourself some of this and then clean up very quickly. And I've got rubber gloves. God, this video starts sounding dodgy. I've got my box of tissues on top of a box of latex gloves, but it's all for model making, trust me, I assure you. Nose starts growing. Different types of masking tape. Yes. Why have I got so many different types of masking tape? Well, sometimes you need to mask big areas, then smaller areas, then you've got yourself double-sided tape, then you've got yourself some gaffer tape, which is quite useful, and if you need to actually hold larger things together and you don't actually have a big enough pair of clamps. I've got myself some different types of textures. This is when I'm doing some Warhammer 40k to be precise, if I want to texturize the bases. And these are actually, if some of you recognize this in Britain, these are seasoning jars. So this is seasonal, or was seasonal. I think that was mint, and it's now been replaced with little rocks with sand, snow, and yes, I assure you this is snow, by the way, and green grass. There we go. And you can open this up and sprinkle it over your bases, but this is for another tutorial for Warhammer or even war model making. What else have we got in here? Yes, I've got myself a I forget what this is called now, pop rivet gun, and that's about it for this drawer. So what's behind drawer number 4? Do you want to guess? Drawer number 4? There we go. Now we're going to get a bit more hardcore when it comes to our tools. We're going for the power tools. We're going for the clamp. This is really good. One thing I have realized over a period of time when sanding or soldering or doing anything else which I need another hand to hold firmly, I got myself a clamp. This only cost me about £5 from Lidl. That's basically a cheap shopping market in Britain. Superb. And also got myself a mini Como drill. This was one of the first drills I've ever had, but I'll go into details later when I go through most of the tools that I use. And obviously there's the Dremel tool with sandpaper underneath. What's behind the final drawer, Captain Child? Well, the final drawer, electronics. Yes, now we're going to get a bit more advanced. We've gone from the most finest of tools to the tools that you don't use often to the power tools, and now we're going to go to the advanced electronic tools. We've got ourselves some LED strips. We've got ourselves some. We've got ourselves a soldering iron. We've got a soldering iron here. And underneath there we've got a box of fuses and LEDs. So that's all the drawers. Superb. If I need to actually get to anything, I just grab a drawer, open it up, and then I've got whatever I need to get to make the model. The first thing every Starfleet engineer needs, a dry dock. Or shall I say, it's a cutting mat. Now, a cutting mat is one of the first things a model maker / engineer should have before you start. If anything, not to destroy your furniture when you're cutting things up, as well as spilling like paints and glues and whatnot, and especially later on when we start using a soldering iron. Now, I love this cutting mat. It's one of my favourites. As you can see, it's brand new. There's no marks, there's no scarring, there's no paint. So I do recommend you go out and get one of these. They're so cheap nowadays. This one comes from Amazon, just over about £10. And one thing I do love about this is all these increments here, this grid, it's separated in centimetres. So it's metric on this side with also radiuses all along here. But if you're old school and you're not quite part of the 23rd century, if you flip it around, you have, ta-da, imperial units. You've got your inches all the way down here, as well as lovely guides going diagonally and all sorts of other angles going on here. So I highly recommend that you get one of these before you get any other tools. That's if you don't already have one of these. If not, why not get yourself a new one? Treat yourself. The model maker's scalpel. What the samurai sword is to the samurai, the scalpel is to the model maker. Or to be precise, the handle is for a model maker. As you can see, it's got a cylindrical handle and it's got a nice etched grip at the end. Now, I've seen model makers and artists use surgical scalpel handles, and the difference being it's very narrow, which means that you have to hold on to it by the sides. Whereas with a model making scalpel, you can hold onto it any which way. So when I want to apply pressure at the top, I can. So that's my preference. There's no right or wrong, but that's one I recommend. And one of the most important things to do with a scalpel is to make sure the business end is well looked after in regards to making sure you always have a sharp blade at the end. Now, as you can see, this is a pack of blades. This is for this particular make. Now, do not be stingy. When I say stingy, don't be tight and actually buy a load of blades. Get boxes of them if you're going to do a lot of model making, because these blades will get dull after a period of time, which can be dangerous. Because what happens if it's too dull, you will start applying more and more pressure, cutting it into your material, to the point that if you just hiccup or just move slightly, you can go in a different direction and end up hurting yourself as well as destroying the surface of your model. So make sure that you always keep a sharp blade in the end of your handle. As you can see in this particular one, if I'm very careful, move that out of the way. Even on the wrapping it says non-sterile, so please don't operate on this whatsoever, otherwise you're going to get a nasty infection. Now, if you want to get really hardcore in your cutting, the Stanley knife. Yes, it looks a bit like overkill. However, this is very useful if you want to cut into very, very thick plastic, or you've got any other jobs you need to put a lot of pressure onto that blade. As you can see, it's safe because it's retractable, and when I don't want to use it anymore, I can put it away. And just the same rule applies in regards to sharp blades. Get some sharp blades. Now, this comes in a little box. It's very, very useful, and one of my tips is when you've used the blade and it's now dull, keep the box because you can always pop them back in, and it's not going to hurt anyone who's going to be collecting your rubbish and throwing it away somewhere, and you don't want that to happen. So yeah, highly recommend that. Tweezers, yes, don't go down your mum or your girlfriend or your sister's or your cousin's handbag. Get your own tweezers. They're very, very useful. They're relatively cheap. I've got 2 pairs here. The only difference being is the very tips. So you've got a tip here, which is a very robust pair of tweezers, which you'll need from time to time. And I've got a very, very thin needle nose tweezers, which are great for very, very highly detailed work. Files, lots of files here, as you can see. These ones actually come from a hardware store, not a model making shop, as you can see by B&Q, which is a British retailer of hardware. Now, when it comes to cost, you can actually get the cheapest of tools and they'll do the same job. However, they might not be as comfortable or as efficient. So with these particular ones, I paid a little bit extra, and you've got a nice rubber handle to them. And believe me, when you're filing away, it does get a bit much on your hand when you're gripping onto these files trying to remove any excess plastic. Various hand tools. Now again, with the price, if you just add a couple of pounds or a couple of bucks to your budget, you can get tools with a nice rubber handle to them, because it's not going to hurt your hands so much when you're using them. As you can see, you're definitely going to use them all, because we've got the old wire cutters here. That's going to be for later, much later, when we're doing the electronics. You've got yourself the ordinary pliers, which you're familiar with, and you've got 2 needle nose pliers as well. So very, very useful tools to have. A Dremel or a mini drill, whatever you like to get, they're all good. I prefer Dremel, obviously, because they are so robust. Now, with all the little pieces you can get here, you can get all this from eBay very, very cheap in massive packs. So I think everything you see in here must only cost me about £5–10 off of eBay. As you can see with this Dremel, it's an older Dremel. I've had this now since I was at university studying model making back in 1999–2000. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed this, because next episode we are going to get stuck into the Enterprise D model. And yes, that's partly why I've taken off my captain's tunic, because things are going to get a little bit messy and I don't want to ruin it. Well, there's that, and it cost me a couple of £100, and it comes all the way from America, and I don't think they make them anymore. However, I will put a link below if you do want to have the genuine article. This really cool tunic, I do recommend it. And I will see you the next episode, where it's all about preparation of the model. Now, I'm going to film this in a slightly different way now, and it's going to be a bit more informal rather than the previous episodes, so bear with me, but the quality of the content will still be the same. Now, if you want to add any comments down below, please do give me suggestions, or if you want to give me feedback about these videos to make them better, that would be awesome, because ultimately this is for you as well as for me, because I want to learn how to make good content and a good experience all round. Okay, now I've got to sign off now. I don't have the right tunic to do the Captain Picard maneuver. However, I'm just going to have to make do. So this is Captain John Child from the Starship Enterprise. You take care, Starfleet engineers, and I'll see you in the next episode. Live long and prosper. Or model make. Live long and model make. God, that's so cheesy.
Library computer data.